Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Just Another Struggling Writer, the beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Well, today is the start of another reading vlog, and it is another of my annotation vlogs. I just finished my first annotation vlog in which I read The Bone Orchard by Sarah A. Muller, and it kind of got me excited about reading again in a way that I haven't been in at least a month. After I wrapped up the book and put together my thoughts, I was just so excited to repeat the experience that I wanted to pick out my next annotation book right away. And I've been thinking about it all day, and the one that is calling out to me right now is The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers. And this is going to be a completely different experience from The Bone Orchard because I had read at least the first 20-25% of The Bone Orchard before starting that annotation project. So I had a little bit of a concept of what was going on, what the plot would be, what the characters were, what the central mystery was. In this book, I literally know nothing about it. I believe I got it last year in my Caffeine and Legends subscription box, but I really don't know that much about it other than that it is very pretty. If you don't mind, I'd love to find out with you guys what the hell this book is even about. For centuries, the Everleys have seen their best and brightest disappear, taken as punishment for a crime no one remembers, for a purpose no one understands. Their tormentor, a woman named Penelope, never ages, never grows sick, and never forgives a debt. Violet Everly was a child when her mother, Marianne, left on a stormy night, determined to break the curse. When Marianne never returns, Penelope issues an ultimatum. Violet has 10 years to find her mother, or she will take Marianne's place. Her hunt leads her into a seductive magical world of power-hungry scholars, fickle gods, and monsters bent on revenge, and into the path of Penelope's quiet assistant, Alexander, who Violet knows cannot be trusted, and yet to whom she finds herself undeniably drawn. With her time running out, Violet will travel the edges of the world to find her missing mother and the key to the City of Stardust, where the Everly story began. It is blurbed by Shelley Parker Chan and Sangu Mandana and a couple of others who I don't recognize. What appeals to me is I don't know why, but it gives me a wintry vibe, and the weather is finally getting colder this week. So I'm excited about that. I really love the cover, and it's really short. It is only 340 pages. So I think this will be a good way to continue my annotation project and keep me reading after such a long mental slump. Ooh, the chapters are short too. Prologue. In Paris, a child goes missing. A baby, to be more precise. 1 minute, he is in his pram, making chubby fists while his mother wheels him around a grocery shop. For a moment, just a moment, she will insist afterwards. She glances away to examine her shopping list, certain she's forgot something, but unable to recollect what. The next, he is gone, whisked away by sure, confident hands. By the time his mother looks back at the soft place where her baby used to be, the perpetrator has vanished. In the heart-stopping seconds between her realization and the scream that wrenches its way past her throat, she catches an unusual vanilla scent in the air. Hello, everyone. It is several days later. We won't talk about it, but I have just reached the 10% mark of City of Stardust by Georgia Summers, and this book is quite short. 10% is only about 35 pages, so I can't say too much what it's about, but thus far it is about a family who is cursed somehow. One member of the family walks out on her family pretty much, including her young daughter, in quest of breaking this curse. It seems as though a portion of this curse is owing a debt to this mysterious woman named Penelope, and Penelope has come to collect on that debt in the form of either Marianne's daughter, the woman who disappeared at the beginning, or Marianne herself. So she has tasked the family with finding Marianne, otherwise she will come and collect Marianne's daughter, Violet. That's pretty much all I've got so far. What I will say is two things. The writing style kind of appeals to me. It does something that I'm a big fan of, which it doesn't really hold your hand through the mystery. It leaves you clues, it leaves hints and references, but it doesn't explain itself. It treats you like an adult, like you're going to figure it out eventually given the clues. I love that. It's one of my biggest pet peeves is when the author treats the reader like they're stupid and they need to be spoon-fed the mystery. I also understand that some people may not love that they may want more explicit explanations. I don't need them. I'm liking this writing style so far, and there are beautiful descriptions and things. But that being said, I'm only 10% in, so I can't really say with certainty if I'm going to love this book or not. But so far, so good. Because this book is so short, it's only, like I said, it's only 350 pages. The chapters are quite short and the margins are really big. So I feel like this book is actually probably even shorter than it feels like it is in my hands. So my goal is to read more of this tonight for sure, and tomorrow, and try and have this finished by midweek, because y'all, I am severely behind on my reading goal. I looked at my Goodreads reading challenge last week, and it said I was 11 books behind, and I was like, oh, that sucks. I'm probably not gonna be able to read 11 books in December, but I could do half of that and make my goal 70 books, which would be exactly double of my reading total from last year. And I thought that's a good compromise. I forgot to take into account that I'm currently 11 books behind, not counting the books that I owe for December, which would have been at least 6. So I'm actually like 16 books behind. And that means I definitely need to read at least like 10 or 11 books if I want to even hit 70. Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. Let's actually look. Okay, I am currently sitting at 57 of 75. So I need 18 books between now and the end of the year. Today is December 1st to hit 75, or 13 to get to 70. I am extremely dubious of that, but I'm going to do my best. This one's a short one, so I'm going to try and finish it by midweek and then finish out another book. But that's not for this vlog. All of that to say, I'm just going to try and storm through this pretty quickly, and I will check in with you when I hit 25%. Hello, everyone. It is now Monday evening, and I have just reached the 25% mark of The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm still kind of into this. As kind of confounding and maybe even a little bit plotless it may be, I think I like it. And plotless is a little harsh. There is a plot, I think. Basically, what I did not understand before, but I understand now, is this is a portal jumping book. And the main character's mother, Marianne, is meant to be bound to this very powerful woman from another world, and she betrayed her, and now pretty much this powerful woman's every thought is bent on finding Marianne. Violet, the daughter, is sort of been kept in the dark about all of this, and now she's slowly sort of figuring out her family's ties to this woman Penelope, the fact that there's magic in the world and other worlds out there to travel to. She's forging a connection with Penelope's assistant, which I can't lie, I'm kind of into. And that's really all I've got so far. So yes, there is a plot. Everyone is trying to find Violet's mother, Marianne. Everyone. But beyond that, I'm really just kind of enjoying the slow reveals of the magic in the world. I really like Alexander's character. I kind of like the unfolding of his connection with Violet, and I left on a moment that I wanted to keep reading. I did not want to put it down, but I knew I had to check in, and I know I've got other things to do tonight. So I like it. Maybe this is the kind of cozy fantasy I can read, because it's not super dense on the plot, and there are stakes, I think, probably implied stakes, I guess, but I'm not pressed about the fact that we're just kind of slowly moving forward. I am digging it so far. So that's 25%. I don't know if I'll hit 50% tomorrow. Probably not, but by Wednesday I hope to be 50% of the way through this. Really enjoying it. I'm glad I picked this up, and the winter vibes are immaculate. I don't know what made me think that this book is wintry, but I was right, and I am glad that I'm reading it in colder weather. I will check in with you once I hit 50%. if that's tomorrow or Wednesday. Hello everyone. I am just checking in for a quick reading update. I have just hit the 50% mark of The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers, and I have to say the shine has worn off a little bit. This last 25% was not very interesting. It was actually really boring. Not a lot happened. Pretty much right when I left you, we were entering part 2, and when I left off, we were entering part 3. So part 2 didn't really do much, didn't really accomplish too much, and it took up a lot of time to not really move too far. I'm starting to kind of see how the author is just kind of on a railroad for the plot and not really taking time to explore any deeper themes or even really subplots. So I'm enjoying it still, but I hope that the next part kind of picks it back up again, because that last section was pretty rough. But I'm going to continue reading. My goal is to have this finished by tomorrow afternoon, and then we will wrap this up. But yeah, I'm still liking it. I just don't think that middle section served a lot of useful purpose for how many pages it took up. I will check in with you again once I am finished with The City of Stardust. My thoughts are going to be a little bit disjointed because I actually already filmed this update and then I just sat down to edit it and it failed to capture any audio. So you would think that after 10 months of filming with this camera, I would know how to tell when my audio was recording, but no. So forgive me if this seems a little bit disjointed. It is now Sunday afternoon, and late last night I finished The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers. And unfortunately, my thoughts from the last update really did not improve that much. You can kind of tell that my annotating kind of faded away as I was just sort of losing interest in the plot. I thought it was funny that early on I mentioned that I liked how the writing style kind of didn't really hold your hand with regards to how it approached the central mystery and the magic and the lore and all of that, and it just sort of drip fed you clues and left it up to you to figure it out. That didn't really hold true for the rest of the book. In fact, I think part of my problem with the story is how much time we ended up spending in the antagonist's head. And in so doing, we sacrificed, I think, time with other characters who I feel like we should have gotten more time with. Alexander in particular, who is Penelope's assistant and the main character's love interest, we spend some time with him, but it ends up not really being enough, in my opinion, to the point where it kind of ends up painting him a little bit as the fool, and where I was thinking, how can you possibly be that stupid or blind or ignoring all of the clues? Because he works for the bad guy and he doesn't realize that she's the bad guy. And it just becomes a little bit hard to believe that he really didn't know anything that she was doing or anything that was going on. And I think that could have been rectified by spending a little bit more time in his head and seeing a little bit more of their relationship outside of the central plot. But unfortunately, this book is just so short that it ended up working against that, because everything that got page time had to be plot forward. And so I liked Alexander in the beginning, but towards the end I was just like, really? You really didn't know? Are you really that stupid? And it was a little bit disappointing for his particular character arc. And I think that if we had spent more time with him and seen more of his relationship with Penelope that didn't have anything to do with Violet or that quest, I might have understood that better. That's really the thing. I think a lot of the intrigue and a lot of the suspense was kind of ruined by how much time we spend with Penelope and seeing her perspective on things. I think if it were me writing this book, I would have approached that in a completely different way, and I would have limited her perspectives and given some more of them to Alexander, because by the end, as we are sort of figuring things out and getting more of the history and things, her perspective ended up just sort of muddying the waters. And maybe that was the intention, but it ended up being sort of confusing, and it ended up leaving me feeling like there was no real purpose to her perspectives. There's that. I would have approached it in a completely different way. One thing I did like, and here I'm going to put a spoiler warning because this is a major spoilers. So if you're interested in this book at all and you haven't read it yet, I'll put a watermark right here and you can skip ahead to when this watermark disappears so you don't get spoiled for this big plot point. Okay? 3, 2, 1. What I did like was that the whole subplot with Marianne, finding Marianne, I guess that wasn't really a subplot, that was the main plot. I actually like how it resolved. I can see why people would be pissed about it, but I actually liked it. So Marianne, they never find her. And it is eventually discovered that Marianne realizes that there is no breaking of the curse in a way that will save her own life. And so she cuts and runs and abandons the quest, but also her brothers and her daughter. And she doesn't just abandon Violet, she abandons her to take her place in the scope of the curse and what it means for her, which is a violent death. I actually like that Georgia Summers took that approach, and there was no knight in shining armor whisking in at the end to break the curse and give everyone this perfectly happy ending. I like that Marianne was not perfect and was kind of a selfish coward. And really, that arc is foreshadowed in the prologue. And I remember thinking, wow, she's telling us up front who Marianne is, even in that beginning part of the book. It says, aside from the house, she's leaving behind so little. This is Marianne. A silk-bound book of fairy tales, the edges fuzzy with wear, a pair of bracelets that glitter with unusual luster, an ancient and useless sword with a dulled edge, passed down from one fusty ancestor to another. A daughter, too, if she wishes to be thorough. For a moment, Marianne pauses, her gaze trained on the bright window. Maybe she hesitates because despite everything that has led to this moment, the call of her child is almost stronger than the call of elsewhere. Then again, maybe not. Perhaps she's throwing off the mantle of motherhood with relief, shedding a load she never wanted to bear. That's in the prologue, and that right up front tells us who Marianne is. She never wanted to be a mother. She doesn't really think about what it means to leave behind her child, and she is going to pretty much to save her own skin. She is going to break the curse because of what it means for her, not necessarily what it might mean for Violet. And I like that Georgia Summers leaned into that and didn't make her to be the hero and didn't have her coming in at the last second to break the curse. There was no savior for Violet other than herself, really. So I did like that. I can see why other people might be frustrated, since so much of the focus of the characters, at least, is finding Marianne. Find her. The protagonists are looking for her. The antagonists are looking for her. Everyone is focused on finding her, only to realize that she has found a way to escape and never come back, and leaving behind everyone who ever loved her to face the wrath of her enemies, pretty much. While I do wish there was a little bit more of answering the mystery of what she was doing and how her investigation was proceeding, and a little bit more of her character, I do like that it wasn't all neatly wrapped up with a bow, and that she had the guts to just write a story where the mother just cuts and runs, pretty much, and abandons her daughter to a grisly fate because she didn't want to face it herself. So I do like that. Okay, spoiler off. Where I end up falling on this book, I thought last night, as soon as I finished, that it was probably sitting at a 3.5, but after I slept on it, I actually think it's closer to a 3, just because the promise it held in the beginning really didn't last beyond that first 25%. The entire rest of the book got a little bit more tedious, and there was a lot going on. The mystery of what the curse entailed, who Penelope was, the magic, it wasn't really very well defined, and it didn't really feel like it was taking itself very seriously. There wasn't a lot of depth to it, and I think part of that is because of its length. There isn't really a lot of time to get too deeply into like the lore and the understanding of what Penelope is and what she is searching for. I do think the ending was a little confusing, and I think it was in some ways on purpose, but I do think it could have been cleared up a little bit better. And so I wasn't entirely satisfied with it. I also don't know that I loved Alexander's ending. I wished a little bit more for him, especially everything that he went through. I mean, I really did like Alexander as a character in concept, because he was a young boy who was kidnapped from an orphanage and taken to be Penelope's assistant, and she sort of groomed him to, not groomed him sexually, but like groomed him to be an unthinking servant to her who would never question her or ever really think about any other objectives beyond what she wanted for him. And in one of her chapters, she describes how she told him that she was basically shaping him into a blade where it is sharp and it is thoughtless and it just does what its master wants. And if he could not be that, then he would be discarded. And he even came to think of himself, yes, I am Penelope's blade. I really wanted to explore more of that dynamic as he was balancing that fealty to Penelope while also coping with this connection with Violet. And I did also like that connection. I think it did make a certain sort of sense from their childhood meeting, how they might have always held that in their heads as something important to them. And so later when they reconnected as adults, I can see why that would become romantic. And so I did like that. I just think that we didn't get enough time with Alexander as a person to really explore that dynamic. And also, once they did reconnect as adults, so much of their relationship building was done off page and in time skips. And so we really were just relying simply on the connection they had when they were children, and then reconnecting as adults. I just wish there was more of it, because I did like it in theory, but it just kind of let me down a little bit. And that's really what this book was in total. Really great setup, and then just sort of failing to execute as it wore on towards the end. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 3. I really did think that first 25% may have earned it a 3.5, but in the end, it was just the first 25%. There was 75% of the book that I thought was sort of meh. So I think that is where I'm going to fall. I'm going to end with a 3-star for this. The winter vibes were immaculate. Definitely was very vibey. There was definitely some beautiful prose in here, but as like a portal fantasy with like these monstrous characters, a curse, a family curse, it was just sort of all right. And that wraps up this Adventures with Annotating. That was my 3rd book in this annotating project. And I've got to say, I have really been enjoying doing this annotating thing. The only downside to committing to annotating every physical book I own is that I'm gonna have to do a lot of rereading of some of these books, because I've read several of them. And it also means like I can't continue a series until I go back and annotate the first books that I've already read in the series. So there is that is a little bit of a bummer, but I have found that just in these 3 books, I am reading a lot more closely. I am sinking more into the worlds and imagining them better, which I have always struggled with, especially when I'm trying to read quickly. I'm not really immersed, and I don't really imagine the setting or the world or the characters very well. It's more like I'm just reading text, and not allowing myself to be completely immersed. So the annotating is really helping with that. And so I appreciate that. So we're going to keep that ball rolling going into 2025. I'm having a pretty good time. But for now, that is everything I have for you for this reading vlog. Thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe, or consider leaving a comment below. If you made it this far into the video, please leave me a key emoji. In my next video, I will have the 3rd installment of my Cardcaptor Sakura Comfort Rewatch series. We will be watching episodes 7 through 9. I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then.